So if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that something I like to do pretty frequently, as seen in my previous video, is go out through Idaho and find different places to explore. And so with that, I decided to take up a new hobby, and that is archery. There's a lot of spaces out here in Idaho that are pretty wide open and kind of allow for that. So I figured, you know what, I'll give it a shot. I haven't shot since like high school, but you know what, it sounded like it would be fun, so here we are. But clearly archery is not what this channel is about and not really what we're here to talk about. But one of the things I've noticed, particularly when I'm recording outside, or if I'm using a lav mic, or in different scenarios, I'm sure you've encountered this as well, there comes up, there's some geese. Perfect example. Something that can be very challenging to deal with is noise or wind or different artifacts that show up in your audio. So what I wanted to do in this video is actually show you a suite of paid plugins that work for Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere that help you seriously clean up your audio, as I will be using all of this footage that I'm shooting right now as an example. So obviously, like I said, this channel has nothing to do with archery. However, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to try some shots in 120 frames per second. So let's try those real quick. Okay, so clearly this video is not about showcasing poorly performed, overly dramatic archery. Instead, the point of this video, of course, is to show you how you can remove noise, echo, or unwanted sounds from your audio to make it super clean and clear. Now, the best thing about this, of course, as well, is that it's going to work for both Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere. So that's the good thing. One downside to this, of course, though, is that these are paid plugins that I'm going to be showing you. I am not sponsored by this company. It's just something that I've been using for a little over a year now. It's been super helpful, and anytime I go and film outside or on various locations, or really anytime I have unwanted noise in any of my audio, I make sure to bring in one or more of these plugins to make it sound significantly better. Okay, so here we are within a project that has a sample clip from a video I did a little while back right here in Adobe Premiere. Now, if you're pretty familiar with this channel, you know I typically work in Final Cut Pro. However, I've slowly been making the transition to Premiere, so I might talk about that in the future. However, this will work both for Premiere and Final Cut Pro. So it has plugins for both pieces of software. It may look a little different in terms of how it's incorporated, but essentially the functionality is the same. Okay, so first off, I just have this one single clip, no color grading. It's just a raw clip. I have done a little bit of EQ. Okay, so what you probably heard and you hear as I'm scrubbing is a lot of noise. So we've got two major things in this clip. First is just the solid continual background noise. So wind hits, it's just instantly colder. So you hear that kind of constant hissing sound. That's one of the things about being out. So there's that. That's one thing. But then we also have the wind that's gusting. So wind gust comes in, wind gust comes out. So listen to the gust. Colder. So you hear that rising and falling of the gusts of wind. So that's two separate things that are kind of ruining our audio. So this is a plugin that's available through something called FX Factory. I will leave a link in the description so you can access it yourself, but it comes with a number of these audio plugins. So they have one just for general denoise. They've got one for removing echo, one for fixing the levels of audio. I've tried this multiple times and it's had kind of sporadic results. I've kind of liked it, kind of not. Pop removers, so if you've got weird pops in your audio. Rustle remover, so if you've got something kind of crumpling, or this is really good if you've got somebody using a lav mic and maybe they are, their shirt's moving around a little bit, just making the audio distracting, you can use that. But in this case, there's two problems that we have with this audio that we want to fix. That's just general noise in the background and then wind. So let's see if we can first get rid of that consistent noise in the background. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the audio denoise onto my clip. And we'll see that it's been added. We'll go ahead and click edit. And we'll see here that there's a lot of settings. There's a lot of fine tuning that you can do. All I usually work with is the strength. What I like to do is to make sure that I have the strength as low as I possibly can while still being effective. Now, the reason I do this is because these plugins, no matter how good they are, to a certain effect, will lower the quality of your audio ever so slightly. So if you want to maintain the audio quality you do have, you want to make sure that you put this as low as you possibly can because it'll start to distort audio the higher that it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start out maybe about 70, which is a little high, and then let's see how this sounds. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just, once the wind hits, it's just... Okay, so let's try it again without. So let's go ahead and edit. Turn it off. Try again. That's one of the things about being... Okay, try it again with the audio plugin. That's one of the things about being out. That's a lot better. I'm going to bump it up a little bit more. Let's go up to like 77. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just... Once the wind hits, it's just instantly cold. And you heard that little like glitchy sound right there? That happens from time to time just with my playback within Premiere Pro. So that should not happen to you. If it does, it's likely not going to come out in the final render. Just a weird glitchy thing in my case. Let's listen to that again. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just... So, and again, ignore the glitchiness. So it is muffling my audio a little bit. So that's where we got to kind of fine tune this. We got to find the happy place between ugly noise and distorting your voice. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just... But it does sound a lot better. So I'm going to bring it right back down to 70. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just... So significantly better. Here's before. That's one of the things about being out in... Here's after. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just... So, big difference. However, if we listen to later on in the track... Instantly colder. We still hear that wind gust. Next, what we want to do, since we're pretty happy with the sound of our noise being removed, next we want to go with the wind remover. Okay, so then we want to find it in our effects panel, click edit, and then you're going to see a pretty similar style panel. 70 is kind of my sweet spot. And again, you want to be careful because the more you apply it, the more it's going to distort your audio. Instantly colder. So you can still kind of hear the wind. So let's go in here and let's try cranking this up even higher. So sometimes you got to hit it pretty hard. Colder. Now the good thing in this clip is that I stopped talking about right there, so that's probably where I can actually cut this clip, so that helps tremendously. Okay, so now that we have those both worked in, let's go ahead and take a listen first without and then with those things added in. Okay, so here we go. So here it is without. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just, once the wind hits, it's just instantly colder. Okay, so terrible sounding audio, right? So obviously, in many cases, this audio would be so bad we'd probably just throw it out. However, thanks to these plugins and the suite of plugins, we can at least kind of salvage it. I won't say it sounds good, but it definitely sounds better. Okay, so now let's go ahead and re-enable those and let's hear the difference. That's one of the things about being out in Idaho. It can just, once the wind hits, it's just So there you go, a huge difference. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's not going to magically add information that wasn't already in the file, but it does a pretty good job of removing noise, wind, pops, rustling. So things that you can't really go back and re-record, but you want to salvage, this thing can make a huge difference and save you a ton of hassle and headache. But as always, you want to make sure that your recording as well as you possibly can so that you don't have to worry about extra plugins to try and fix your audio. Okay, so hopefully you found that helpful. I will leave a link in the description, which will have links to where you can actually go and purchase each of these plugins, or one or a variety of them, whichever works best for your workflow. Again, I am not sponsored, just something that I've found super helpful. I wanted to share it with you so that hopefully it is helpful for you as well. As always, if you did find this video useful, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.